Hello everyone, it's David from Automotive Press. Guess what? I have the 2024 Mazda Miata MX-5 Roadster, which by the way comes in both a soft top and hard top. This is a hard top. It's called RF, which stands for retractable fastback. It's all refreshed and improved for 2024. One of the last of the convertibles in the market, as more and more companies abandon this type of vehicle. So it is a rare sight these days, and I love driving it. It's so fun to drive, and of course it's open top experience. There's a lot of things I want to tell you, so let me go through my entire engineer's review template to explain from beginning to the end in terms of how good this is or how maybe not so good it is. I'm going to tell you all the ins and outs using my full review template. Let's go. Welcome back. So I have a 2024 Mazda Miata MX-5, which by the way is officially MX-5, but we often call it as Miata as well. And it is a low slung, low profile, beautiful vehicle. And you might not be aware that originally speaking, the 1989 Mazda Miata was inspired by Italian and British sports cars, because during those times there was lots and lots of convertibles. And apparently the Lotus Elan was the original British inspiration that resulted in the Mazda Miata. But anyhow, coming back to this one, let's do my engineer's full review, including the exterior and interior quality and performance and practicality and all that stuff. And I'll rank it from 1 to 5. Quick check on the exterior. It's 3.8 millimeter gap here, 3.5, 3.5, and at the back, 3.3, and that's despite having the retractable hard top. But more than that, the paint quality is fantastic. I know this factory, which is a Hiroshima factory in Japan. I have been to that factory many times and have seen this Miata being built. And if you look at it, even though it's raining right now, just a beautiful quality in terms of all the parts, the exterior panel, and also the plastic parts and everything looks fantastic. I'm going to give it a solid 4.3 for the quality because it's just beautifully made and the paint job is really fantastic. I wish you could see this car in the other paints because then the paint job really pops. It's a little hard to see in this gray color under the cloudy, rainy days. But let's check the interior quality now. So now I'm inside the Miata MX-5, and once again it's raining right now, so it's a bit dark and gloomy in here. But the fit and finish is excellent, regardless of the fact that this car has been around for a while. If you look at all the plastic materials, the stitching, even this piece of plastic right here, the feel of the dials, well, it's fantastic. It feels a little bit like almost an expensive radio or electronic device because this has a nice tactile feel to it. More about manual transmission and driving character later on. But you know what, I'm going to give it a solid 4.5 for interior because everything fits well. The gap's a little bit big, but other than that, this thing is built like a tank. It looks absolutely solid. And once again, I've seen this thing being built in the factory, and I can attest to the fact that Mazda quality is as good, or in some cases, it's better than Toyota models as well these days. Built in Japan, this thing is rock solid. Still raining outside, but I'm going to carry on with my review. In terms of design and engineering, well, it can't get simpler than this, which is a two-door, low-slung, rear-wheel drive, lightweight sports car. This is what really sports car is supposed to be. We don't want big, expensive, heavy sports cars. I'm not too fond of those type of sports cars because it kind of goes against my philosophy of having a lightweight sports car, which is what makes Miata truly, truly special. Also, engineering marvel in terms of having this hard top that opens like this, and you can see it in the B-roll right now. It's just a beautiful design. It's tight seal, and when this thing is closed, it's as good as a hard top. I don't hear any sound. I don't hear any wind noise. It's absolutely solid. So that's the best of both worlds because you can open it or close it, although you have to keep in mind that it doesn't open all the way here like the soft top because there's kind of a hard piece right here. So it's almost like a Targa roof as opposed to a full convertible because some of these things stay in place, but still it's open top feel and design is almost perfect. So I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5 for design and engineering exterior because once again, this type of engineering is not around these days, and I think they've done an amazing job. Let's take a look at the inside to see if I find anything else interesting in terms of engineering. Okay, so we're back inside the vehicle now. In terms of engineer's perspective, what do I notice? Well, first of all, I actually really like the fact that this is a simple design, old-fashioned design, 3 instrument gauges over here, big dials for HVAC controls, nothing complicated, nothing fancy. However, there are also practical things that might drive people crazy if you're used to more modern cars. For example, the cup holders for passengers right here kind of attached separately, and then for the driver, it's all the way back here as well. So how can I possibly actually grab a drink? I guess I can grab it from here, but those are add-on because this car was really never designed to be a practical car. It was designed to be a fun car. However, they did improve the infotainment system. It now has both wireless and wired Apple CarPlay. And when you put it in the CarPlay mode, everything is touch panel. But as soon as I put it in the Mazda mode, it doesn't work anymore. I'm back to over here using the dial. And while I don't mind using the dial, why do this? I still cannot understand why Mazda refused to have a full touch panel on here when I can easily reach it, and when it is clearly a touch panel when it's in this mode. So why not just make everything a touch panel? I don't really understand that. So that's sort of my complaint for this Mazda Miata, but also complaint for Mazda in general. And like I said, everything else is simple, and it's being updated in many ways, including exterior and also interior for this year. And they also made some changes mechanically speaking as well. But I'm going to have to give it a 3.5 for the interior engineering design, because these things are not acceptable in today's modern cars. They could have easily designed it to integrate a proper cup holders and make this a full touch control panel. So those are some of my complaints. It is a small car, so there's not much storage space. In fact, there is no storage space. I can put the phone here, but this one is useless here. So even 3.5 might be a little bit generous, but I do like the simple interior design. So unfortunately, the day I'm filming this car is pouring rain, so I can't even take the top down. But in terms of driving, I'm really honest that this is what makes this special, because for the price, how do you get this amount of performance and fun to drive factor these days? It's not even possible, because everything costs so much money, and you definitely cannot even find a decent convertible sports car these days for a decent price. So this thing is real high value. But most of all, it's just this fun to drive factor that's missing in today's modern sports machines. Everything is about turbocharged engines, hybrids, and all-wheel drive, and therefore you just cannot find naturally aspirated engine with rear-wheel drive in a simple two-door format that is meant to give you maximum fun to drive feel. And that's what this is about, not just because of the fact that the top opens, but in terms of simplicity of the powertrain and handling. It's just beautiful. It's a really good feel in terms of steering. It's really flat around the corners, which also means that there's some compromises elsewhere, but in terms of driving character, I can't praise this enough. The turns are quick, it drives like it's on rails, and even though it's a small car, the ride is acceptable, although very firm. But most of all, just the handling is super quick. If I go like this, left and right, it's just immediate feel, and he has a really good feedback on the steering. Despite the fact that this is using electric power steering or EPS, it feels like a hydraulic power steering, one of the strengths of the Mazda. So for handling, I give it a 4.6 because it's just a really honestly good feel car. For the powertrain, well, what can you say? It's not a huge amount of power. It's 181 horsepower out of a 2-liter naturally aspirated engine, but it's well matched to the character of this car because of the fact that this really harks back to the original convertible concept from 1960s, 70s, and 80s, when people really enjoyed small convertible cars. And from that perspective, the powertrain is perfect for this one because it revs really well, redline at 7,000 RPM, and it's extremely smooth. And it's not too loud even when I step on the gas a lot like this. It's actually music to my ears compared to today's modern turbocharged engines. I'll take naturally aspirated engine anytime. So yes, it does lack power, but it is beautifully matched to the character of this Miata MX-5. And what about the transmission? Well, this one has a 6-speed manual, which again is rare these days as well. You can get a 6-speed automatic transmission, but this is the one to get. The Miata's transmission is super smooth, quick shifting. It kind of reminds me of the Honda S2000 era when these type of manual cars were readily available, and it really provided so much excitement during drive. And so I give a solid 4.0 for powertrain because I love the transmission, the clutch and everything works so fantastic, but the engine could use more power. Next category is road feel, which is divided into ride and the NVH. So first of all, the ride, of course, is going to be super stiff. This car is not meant to give you the most comfortable ride, although it's smooth and reasonably refined for a small, tiny sports car, but it is definitely quite rough riding over bumpy road and over any kind of terrain that has irregular surfaces. So it's not a kind of car you want to drive if you have to drive in a gravel road or some other type of road surfaces where things are not smooth. You definitely don't want to drive this over potholes because you're going to really feel that. So the ride is, I would say, 2.9, so below average for obvious reason. That wasn't the prioritized for this vehicle, and it's not meant to give you a great ride, although it's smoother than you think. But in terms of NVH, it's not bad for convertible. Again, you have to kind of compare apples to apples and orange to oranges. So if I compare to other convertibles with the top up, well, this one is way quieter because of this hard top design that seals completely, and basically there's no wind noise. It's exactly the same as a normal coupe with the hard top, and it's not anything like a convertible in terms of NVH, so it's way better than that. I have the same kind of design in my Lexus SC430 that's also a retractable hardtop, because back in those days the retractable hardtops were more common. We were able to get that in many different models, but these days it's almost impossible to find because all the companies have moved away from this type of design due to the cost. It's simply too expensive to have retractable hardtops these days. So it is noisy because it's a small car with small engine, but comparatively speaking, it is a truly well-designed, engineered vehicle because of this hardtop. I'm going to give it a 3.5 for NVH because it is still a noisy car and it's not the most comfortable place to spend timing in terms of refinement and in terms of environment, but compared to other convertibles, it's way better with the top up. The fifth and the last category is called value, and I evaluate this based on whether it's a good price and also is it a good resale value as well, because it's not always about the buying price that matters. It also matters whether it retains value after many years. So first of all, I think the price is ridiculously good for this model, almost fully loaded. This is a mid-grade level, but here in Canada, this is $45,000. What can you buy for $45,000 these days that's fun to drive, a convertible top, and with a manual transmission? Well, I don't think you can. And even though I've driven many convertibles and sports machines in the past, none of them comes close to this in terms of value factor. They just cannot match this amount of features and this amount of performance and fun to drive factor at this price range. I've recently drove a Boxster GTS 4.0, for example, which cost, what, 2.5 times this, and it is definitely more fun to drive, much more power, but you know what? This simple convertible, hardtop, whatever you want to call it, with this kind of driving character, well, you just can't beat the price. So I give a solid 4.6 for value because it's a really good value for what you get, and I dare you going to find something in this price range with this amount of fun to drive factor. What about resale value? Well, actually the resale value is very reasonable for Miata MX-5, mainly because the starting price is already so low. So they don't tend to depreciate as much compared to traditional and classic sports cars, because usually sports cars do not do too well in the resale market. But the Miata or MX-5 has been keeping the value quite well, and the actual depreciation is reasonable, especially for this RF model or retractable fastback, because they're hard to find and there's not too many of them around. And I predict at some point the Miata will disappear and convertible will disappear because this is such a small niche market that most companies will not continue to invest money into it. So in the next generation Mazda, Miata or convertible, it just might be electric cars and we might lose something like this. And in that case, the resale value will go even higher. So I give it a solid 4.0 for resale value, which means overall for a customer, this thing provides a lot of value whether you're buying it or you're selling it. So overall, what do I think? Well, first of all, like I said, in 1960s, 1970s, even 80s and on to early 2000s, we had so many convertibles. You could even get an SUV convertible back in those days. But all of them were soft top with a canvas top. And very few manufacturers offer hard top, although like I said, I have a Lexus SC430 with the hard top, and some other brands such as Mercedes and BMWs also offered hard top. But you could not find this kind of a retractable hardtop in this price range, in this kind of package, until Mazda decided to offer the Miata MX-5 in the RF format. So I take my hats off to Mazda for doing that, and also for maintaining and keeping the Miata on the market, because so many companies have given up on these type of sports cars. And also this is built in Japan. beautiful manufacturing quality, absolutely fun to drive, and just amazing value if you take into account the price and if you actually look at the type of performance that it provides. So I think if you want to buy a small sports car, I wouldn't bother with something like let's say a Toyota GR86. I think this is a better value, although it's also more compact and smaller inside, because with the Miata MX-5 you get a convertible experience and feel along with a beautiful drive. So I hope you enjoyed my video. If you do, please give me a thumbs up and make some comments. And also, if you haven't done so yet, would you kindly subscribe as well. Until next video, I'm signing off for now. Thank you.